Welcome to Truck and Travel. I'm Derek. Sorry about the noise in the background. Right now we're in our semi truck and we have the generator running. The Cinnamon's in the back right now sleeping, so I'm trying not to be too loud. I just wanted to do a review of the F350. I have not driven this truck since the transmission's gone out on it, and that's been a few months ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. I do want to say that I do like this truck a lot. There's a lot of things I don't like about it. When I first started driving this truck when it was brand new, I was doing RV transport and I was a non-CDL driver at that time, so I was taking loads that were under 10,000 pounds. And I remember this one time I had a travel trailer, which is an RV, and I was taking it through, I believe, the hills, eastern Pennsylvania, and they're pretty decent. And I remember going up a hill and I remember seeing the transmission temperature get up to 240 degrees, and that was like one of my first red flags, and it freaks me out because this is a brand new truck and it's getting that hot in the trans, and it's a dually heavy duty, you know, it shouldn't be getting that hot. At least that's how I felt. As time went on though, I noticed the truck temps, the trans, it seems to run hotter than all the other trucks, you know, especially the Dodges. So that being said, it's just a matter of getting the pick of the litter. So, I mean, there's always going to be a bad one here and there in every make and model, whatever brand you get. And this is my experience with this truck. I've had 2 different F350s now. The first one was a 2012 and then this one's a 2017. It seems like the normal running transmission temperature for this, whether it had a trailer or not, was about 205 to 215 degrees Fahrenheit. I went from doing RV transport to hot shotting, and I started doing that when the truck had around 100,000 miles on it. And so the first 100,000 miles of the truck's life, about 50,000 miles of it was under load with like a travel trailer that was about 10,000 pounds or less. And then I got into hot shotting, and I was still a non-CDL driver, and I was still taking light loads compared to what the truck can handle, or that the Ford company says it can handle, for a very long time. I want to say about till the truck got up to, I'm just guessing, maybe 140,000 miles. That's when I got a CDL-A, got a 40-foot gooseneck trailer to where it can handle a lot of weight, where the trailer and the freight combined was around 25.9, so 25,900 pounds was what the trailer is rated for. I think the actual weight of the trailer was around 9,000 and some, so then the rest of that weight was possible freight. Roughly 100,000 miles after that, you know, most 95% of the time there was a trailer on that truck. You know, you figure at least 9,000 pounds, so that's, you know, it's always working. Compared to the first 100,000 miles of its life, it was really working. The most amount of weight of freight I put on that trailer is probably about 16,000 pounds, and that didn't happen that many times. It was mostly probably about 8,000 pounds and under, I want to say. So you're looking at, you know, we'll just say 15 to 18,000 pounds, you know, right over the axle of the pickup truck or whatever. You know, that the truck was rated for like, I think 30 to 36,000 pounds or something right there. So we was well under what the truck was rated for from the factory. So we'll touch back on the transmission issue, but beginning on, I would notice on the sync radio that it would, while the satellite radio was playing, it would you would hear nothing and then it'd come back on. Like, it'd have those spaces, and I just dealt with it. And I kind of wish I would have just took it into the dealership and had them replace it or whatever, because about, I want to say a little bit after 30,000 miles, the sync radio went to crap. The GPS stopped working. It would work whenever it wanted to. The satellite radio wouldn't always work, and then you couldn't even change the stations or turn up the volume. And then I had problems to where the light wouldn't get dim because there's like a night, you know, tintness, and then a brightness for the day, and then a tint for the nighttime. And since all that other crap was screwing up, that screwed up too, to where it would be a bright light at nighttime right in your face as you're trying to drive in the night, you know. So that was a pain in the butt. So once it would actually let me mess with the settings, I set it to to stay on the night mode all the time. So even when it was during the day, it'd be on the night mode. So that way I never got stuck with the bright light at nighttime, because that is so annoying. GPS isn't moving since I crossed the state line, and nothing else is working either. And I'm driving, so should be showing a curve right now, and it's not. The sunroof about the same time, you know, I noticed that. Oh, the sunroof, that has been an annoyance. Supposed to hit this button, that's supposed to open up, and then the sunroof's supposed to open up, but it never does. It just gets that far and then it won't open. Early on you could hear a click when it would try to open up, and then suddenly most of the time it didn't want to shut. It would go so far, and then when it shut all the way and just go back open, it did that for the longest time. Like if you hold the button, it'll either force it open or force it shut, and I just dealt with that. And after a while, sometimes when it would go to move, after so long of doing this crap, it would make this loud, almost sounds like a cracking sound of like glass. So I don't know if there's something in there breaking or what, but I heard that I heard from one of the mechanic techs or whatever at Ford, that Ford is aware of the issue of the tracks for this model of truck with that moonroof. So they're well aware of it, but they weren't doing anything about it at the time. You know, no callbacks or nothing. They're just letting the customers deal with it. I've had times where that sucker was stuck open. I got it shut, you know, thank God. Now it is stuck shut. Like it tried to open up just a crack, and I was, you know, it was stuck like that for a little bit. Luckily I got it shut before there's any kind of crazy weather coming. Now I got it shut. It doesn't feel like it's shut all the way, but because there's the glass, and then you got the cover that covers up the glass. Usually that cover won't shut until the sunroof is actually shut all the way. And so I feel like it's not shut all the way because that cover won't cover up the moonroof, but it's shut enough to where there's no water coming in, thank God. I'd hate to see what it would be like with a hurricane. Nonetheless, there's that issue. So right now I bought like a what do you call those? Just in case you deal with the same issue, I bought a sun visor. I cut it up and I shoved it up there, so that way I don't have the sun beating down on me all the time, because I get a lot of migraines and it's hard to deal with light. One thing I did early on is I really love the power seats and the power pedals, because I have a Lariat model, and I'm sure the Platinums do this too, but they will, when you turn off the truck, it'll go back, so that way it's easier to get in and out of the truck. And when you turn it on, it goes to whatever controller, I believe, like there'll be like 2 different controllers, so you can have 2 different settings. So whatever driver's sitting there, it's their settings, so it'll move back. I went into the settings early on and made it so that it didn't move in and out. It just stayed there, just because I knew I was going to put a ton of miles on it, and I did not want that to get stuck back to where I cannot move the seat. So I don't know if anybody's having any problems with that, or if they want to prevent that. That is an option to do, is to go into settings and to change that. What I ended up doing was I would always take this truck to the Ford dealership, the local Ford dealership, to have the oil changed and the maintenance done, just because I just wanted it done correctly. And if there was like anything that was done wrong, I wanted it to be on some dealership's hands, so that way maybe they would cover it, or you know what I mean. That might sound awful, but in a way I was trying to have like cover my butt in a way to where I might have less expense, but you're also paying for the extra maintenance cost of somebody doing the work for you. But it was kind of nice because I made friends with those guys. I would try to learn what I could from them, and whenever they'd have this baby lifted up, I would, you know, crawl underneath there, and I'd be able to look better underneath it than what I could in the driveway at my house, you know. So that was nice. I got to be friends with those guys pretty good. So if you take your truck somewhere, try to take it to at least one place consistently, somewhat, so that way you can make friends. And you know, these guys, they go out of their, like, they will stop working on a vehicle just to chat with me because I've seen them so often, you know what I mean. I was in there every other week almost, or if that, I don't know. Great guys. I haven't seen those guys in a long time. Good guys. You might want to do that. But while I was doing that, I noticed that there was a leak at the transfer case, or they noticed it, one of the two. So that was one of the issues. It was around 30,000 miles. Well, after 30,000 miles, I want to say it was around 64,000 miles when I had that issue with the truck and Ford would not cover that. It was something I had to deal with. I don't think I got any seals replaced or anything. I think I just kept on filling it up because it was like a slow leak. We even put some dye in there in the fluid to see if we could find out where it was coming from. Couldn't really find it. The rear differential, I believe that's what it's called. The gasket was leaking around there and had to have Ford redo that. And of course that wasn't under warranty either. That was about the same amount of time. I kept up on the maintenance on this truck. You know, I always had the transmission fluid changed when it needed to be changed or a little bit sooner. Likewise with the oil, I tried to have the oil changed in this truck every 5,000 miles because I would idle it at nighttime because I'd sleep in the truck, which I highly do not recommend. So there's something to think about. You know, I was kind of beating the crap out of this truck. I will say this, I feel that Ford made these trucks for work, so they should be able to do whatever I throw at it because I was not throwing the max weight at it. You know, they advertise these trucks to be the everyday hard worker, and that's what I'm looking for. That's what I wanted. But the one thing that you shouldn't be doing is idling it for hours and hours at a time. So when I was in the states that was legal to idle, I would idle it and sleep in the truck, which I highly recommend not doing. That's because it's dangerous. I've seen these Super Duties burning down to the ground for whatever reason. I would idle it. I never had any death problems, you know. I know there's guys out there that have. I'm really surprised that I haven't had any, you know, death problems or DP, whatever it is. The truck currently has 233,000 miles on it. It still drives and steers like it's brand new. I'm really surprised, really impressed. I went through, I think, 3 sets of tires now, and it still drives the same. Never had an alignment done, surprisingly. I will say this, if you like cushion seats, these are not the seats for you. Like I said, I had a 2012 before this, and I love those seats way more. Those seats, you felt like you were riding in a Cadillac compared to these. They're a stiffer seat. I'm personally not a big fan of that, but if you like stiff seats, then you'll like these seats. Heated and cooled seats still work. I feel like the cooling thing works a lot better in this truck than it did in my 2012. Something else I like about this truck is it has the heated steering wheel. The problem with that is you turn it off and on from the sync radio, so I couldn't always use that when I need that. That's something that sucks, you know. There's like, that stupid sync radio controls a lot, and I did get a quote to have that fixed. They said something about APEM, or I'm probably saying it wrong. I really don't know, but it sounded like that was going to cost me around $800 to have that fixed, and also have that moonroof fixed. It was going to cost around $800 too. So you're looking at $1,600 for those stupid things right there. So if that's a common thing with other trucks, these F350s, then maybe you want to skip those options if you plan on driving this like a crap load of miles. And you know, you'll save stress on yourself from it not working, and plus you'll save the money of not getting those options. Something to think about. And I think the basic radio, you can still have hands-free cell phone talk, so it's something to think about. And I think it still has satellite radio, and it's probably still a decent sounding radio. You could always put in an aftermarket radio too if those don't impress you, so that's something to think about. Never ever had a problem with the diesel engine. Thing runs like a top. It's awesome. Never had a problem with the turbo. Turbo's still fine. Alright, now we're going to talk about the transmission. My previous truck, the transmission started to get hot and it would just stay there. It didn't matter if there was a trailer on or if it was just the pickup truck, no load. It would just get up to like 230 degrees and it would stay there. It wouldn't cool off unless you parked along the side of the road, turn the engine off for a little bit, turn it back on to let it circulate, then turn it back off. That was the only way it was going to cool off. The 2017 started doing that. I don't know exactly, I don't know transmission, so I don't know exactly, you know, what the actual problem was. I was in the middle of going to a different job. Like, I don't trust that these trucks are going to last as long as semi-trucks, and my gut feeling was this thing would only last from 300,000 to 500,000 miles. I have heard of some other trucks, you know, lasting, you know, 1,000,000 miles or whatever. There's always that golden goose out there that's, you know, running forever, but I had a gut feeling this wasn't it. So we was working on getting into this truck. When it was getting close to where we were actually getting into a different truck, the transmission started getting hot in our F350. instead of taking it to a garage to having it fixed,
we searched for advice all that we could. We tried to ask friends that were really good with vehicles, maintaining them, working on them, and we also went to the Ford dealership asking mechanics there, Ford techs, people that were good with that work on transmissions. We told them what was going on, and you know, we tried to ask them certain questions, and everybody pretty much told us the same thing, is that majority of the crowd told us, even the Ford mechanics were saying that sounds like this thing's on its way out the door.
Just to try to get a few thousand more miles out of it. Our buddy Chuck has located a solenoid that might be helpful for the Ford transmission. It's a 6R140, and there's a certain solenoid on there that seems to be not so awesome. So we're here picking up a performance solenoid, hoping that that makes things better.
Yep, just this little guy. What was it, $129?
I did that because we had some time until we was actually going to get in this truck, and so I needed to work as long as possible. So the way I was looking at it was, if I stop driving the truck to get it fixed, it's going to cost me money out of missing work. So I just farmer rigged it, and I drove it until the transmission stopped working on me. And I did that because I knew it would cost me money either way. This way, I can set the truck aside and I can pay for it later, which, you know, it could be way more expensive than me missing work and missing out on pay and all that. But that was what we chose to do. So, and the truck, you know, it was getting hotter and hotter. The transmission cooler that I did add did help out for a little bit of time, but then it started to get worse. Today, the transmission is about toast. We wasn't expecting today to be the last day for hot shotting for us, but it's going to be for about 2 weeks now. I'm going to say about 6,000 miles. So about 6,000 miles ago, I noticed the transmission started to get a little bit hotter than normal, and that was with the trailer empty on flat land. I try to keep an eye on the temperature just because I am paranoid. And so what we wanted to do to try to extend the life of what we have left of it is to get a transmission cooler. We wanted to get a deep transmission pan. I seen one for like 8 quarts, or that had 8 quarts that for like 300 and some bucks, but it was going to take Summit Racing like a month to come in, and you probably can't even see anything back there. Well, man. Welcome to Michigan. Right now the current transmission temperature is 246 degrees, which is a low for today. Currently in 5th gear out of 6. So we're in 5th gear, and we got it set at 55 miles per hour. Minimum speed here on I-75 in Michigan is 55. So currently today it got as high as 271 degrees. So we'll rewind a little bit. We didn't get a trans pan, we got a trans cooler, because that was something we could do right away. It's got a fan on it. It did help out 10 to 20 degrees. And then finally the last day, it got up to 270 degrees. I pulled off the side of the road, you know, let the truck idle to circulate, to cool off, and then I, you know, turn it off for a little bit, turn it back on, let it circulate, try to get it to cool off. I did that a couple different times. Finally, it gave out that day. That's where we sit with the truck. I can't think of anything else that's wrong with it. I will say I had this one big hitch that's meant for like travel trailers to counter the weight and all that. I can't remember what they're called. I forget off the top of my head. Torsion bar maybe, I don't remember. I had that sitting in the bed of the truck, and you know, the rocking back and forth and vibrating over a amount of time. It was just like digging into the aluminum. So that was something I wasn't impressed with. It might still do that to steel, don't know. It didn't go through, so I can't tell you how deep it went. I would say that I do like this truck. My advice to anybody with this truck or that's looking to get this truck, I would get a deeper transmission pan. I will say that Jags sells one that's like a additional 8 quarts. Definitely get that one if I was you, or consider it at least. Yeah, if you had any other problems or if you experienced the same thing, let me know down below. I hope this video was helpful or gives you something to look out for. But if you're ever towing anything, I highly recommend you watch your transmission temperature keep an eye on that. Maybe just see what the truck runs without a load on there too. You know, every once in a while keep an eye on that to make sure that everything's good to go. I really like this truck. It has a 410 rear end, 6-speed automatic. It's a 4x4, really nice truck. If it wasn't for that one transmission issue, I think I would give it like a 4 out of 5. It's something to watch out for. I just want to let you guys know to keep your eyes open. But overall, I'd probably give this truck, you know, with my experience, probably 3 out of 5. I do miss the truck. I do miss the truck. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment down below. Let me know if you experienced anything like this with any Fords or with the Ford F350 or any Super Duty or even GM or Dodge. Let me know if you run any problems like that. I know there's probably going to be a lot of comments saying I should have got the Dodge. That seems to be a common thing. That's alright. I was actually between a Dodge and a Ford when I was getting this truck, so almost did. But you know what? I still like the truck, so it's alright. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Tune in next time. See you guys.
Nothing can break me.